Hey, what's up, Zach here, and today I've got the all-new Nike GT Cut 3 Turbo, and for better or for worse, we've got a lot to talk about with these. Let's get into it. All right, now starting off in the uppers and honestly throughout the shoe, the big theme of this is beefed up, you know, compared to the GT Cut 3, the GT Cut Cross, the GT Cut Academy. Now where that's really evident is in the tongue. It's basically got the shape of like a clamshell almost. It really envelops your ankle, feels fantastic at lockdown. I mean, the laces have like a little bit of like a TPU weave to them, so they really hold tension very well. A lot of texture, really a lot of friction, which is great on that. So the lockdown on this is actually fantastic as that tongue kind of wraps around your ankle. And you don't get a runner's knot, but the last eyelet does go up pretty high in the ankle collar. Really, heel slippage is none to mild. It's really a nice, secure feeling. In the rear foot, I mean, you do get actually a pretty decent amount of padding around the heel counter. You do get an internal heel counter, and then basically just some rubberized paneling around the external side of the heel counter. I think it provides a little bit of stability, but maybe a little bit of window dressing, but really anything that reinforces across it, it's gonna have a little bit of an impact, even if it's very minute. Now, as you go through that tongue, honestly, it's not the most padded tongue out there, but it's padded enough in the right areas. Like I said, lace irritation really didn't have much, just more felt secure than anything. The tongue does have a pretty low gusset, and then the lace eyelets are they're integrated. They're that hybrid integrated, you know, cuffed lace eyelet, so it really does pull the uppers down really well. As you go into the forefoot, I mean, like I said, the padding isn't super plush, but it does feel very secure. Now, if you'll notice, going around the periphery of the shoe, it is just more paneling all throughout the shoe. With that, you know, look at the breathability test on these things. They did heat up 137.6 degrees, which is really unheard of for a lot of Nike shoes. Most Nike shoes actually do handle heat pretty well. That comes down to a few things. Number one, look at the breathability mapping. I mean, fog's not getting out of anywhere. It's hardly getting out of the sides of the tongue. Also, peak external temperature on the outside of the shoe didn't get above 64 degrees, which is like room temperature in here. So really no heat egress. Plus it's got a ZoomX insole. And as we've seen in a lot of other reviews, you know, Pebax isn't the best at handling that heat gun. So there's just a lot of places in this shoe to hold on to heat and moisture. So if you're gonna be buying these and you're gonna take them to a game or practice, I would make sure to bring another pair of socks with you, or just a very well-breathing pair of socks, maybe a little bit of foot powder. Now look at these things on the upper durability test though, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, and all that like rubberized paneling on there does a fantastic job. The burr just barely scuffs it up. You do get some exposed backing on here, no exposed foam though. The rubber goes up decently high. So in terms of dragging or sliding, honestly, these are pretty good for indoor courts, and they kind of have a little bit of texture to them, right? They have a little bit of grab, which I think is actually pretty nice. So like I said, to me, a lot to like in the uppers in terms of lockdown and security, but you are paying for that a little bit on the other end with a little bit of heat and moisture trapping. All right, but getting into the midsole teardown, I liked it, but I know a lot of you are probably gonna be a little bit disappointed. Now, number one, it is an almost full bed of Nike ZoomX foam that is carried by Nike Phylon. Now, if you look at the bottom of the shoe, that looks like carbon fiber braiding, right? It also looks like it on the upper of the shoe, right on the lateral side of the forefoot. That's not carbon fiber, neither is this. This is plastic. If there is some sort of carbon composite in there, that might be the case. I cut through it with my knife, just like plastic, looking at it on the microscope. It looks like, you know, just plastic. Like I said, there could be some sort of carbon composite in there, you know, in a little bit, you know, kind of like a hybrid, but to me, it seems like it's just a more light plastic. Now that plastic goes all the way into the forefoot, and it's very, very responsive. It's very, very springy, really nice diving board effect on these things. I loved it. I thought it felt fantastic, honestly. Look at it on the bounce height test, got 41.5 centimeters in the rear foot, 45 in the forefoot. I think the reason I got so much more in the forefoot is because that ball bearing had that, you know, plate to bounce off of versus just the foam and then, you know, the concrete here. So the shank does a fantastic job, that bottom loaded shank. It really does act as a nice springboard. I know I saw in so many comments like, oh, I heard it's got carbon fiber, it's got carbon fiber. Like I said, maybe it's a carbon composite, you know, with plastic or something, but to my eyes, it's not like a traditional carbon fiber that I would see like in, you know, like in a Nike Vaporfly or Alpha Fly shoe. However, still does the job really, really well. All right, getting into the outsole tread, basically the same as the GT Cut 3. It's got these mountain peak patterns in that forefoot tread pod, and then the rear foot, kind of the same thing. Same thing also on the grip test ramp, doesn't slip till 42 degrees. They do pick up some dust. It actually took a while for me to pick up dust in these. On the GT Cut 3, the original, it was picking up dust a little bit quicker. Obviously the rubber color was a little different on those, so that may have had an effect on these. Once these did pick up dust, there was a little bit of give to them. And even if I wiped them down, I still had a little bit of give, kind of like in the GT Cut 3, but that was kind of off the jump. The distraction for me was like that. And these ones, like I said, you got a lot more wear time. Honestly, grip spray or a grip mat or a wipe is just really fantastic for these, because when this tread is clean, it does give some pretty tacky pinpoint stopping grip. So, you know, take that for what you will. Now you look at this thing on the speed ratio, comes in at a 3.07, shank score of 0.2. Hallelujah, brings it up to a 3.27. Yeah, I think if anything, that's underselling it. These things are quick. I think it's called a turbo plate, and the shank on the bottom really does a nice job. First step launch, their stopping power, infinitely better than the GT Cut 3. I mean, really, this to me is what the GT Cut 3 should have been. Much more stable going side to side. And because that shank spans a longer area, it just makes the shoe so much more stable. We'll see in the fit section where, you know, you could still get into some issues with these, but for what these are, more speed focused shoes, something with a lot of launch, a lot of lift. This is, like I said, the stability on them really does match everything else about the shoe. The quickness from the Zoom X foam, kind of the profile of them, I really think it's really, really nice. Look at this thing on the outsole durability test, 10-second tires grit sandpaper. Yeah, I did get a millimeter of damage on this. The durometer comes in at 15.75, so it's decent. Honestly, these are indoor shoes. I guess if you can get the EP version, if they do come out, I'm not sure if there's gonna be an EP version of the Turbo, that would be a lot better, but like I said, it's still pretty thin rubber. You know, and like I said, stopping power on these, like I said, it is just so much better than the GT Cut 3, just having that shank span a little bit of surface area. So yeah, in terms of speed, in terms of quickness, absolutely fantastic. Like I said, just watch out for some wear just because of that thin tread. All right, but getting into the fit of the Turbos, a few things you really have to watch out for. Number one, they have a 15-degree inflare. These things are swooped in the forefoot. One of the reasons they feel so quick, because they're super inflared. But number two, they have a resting position of 1 degree everted. Loaded, that jumps up to 8 degrees everted. So that is quite a bit. You know, most shoes that have a decent amount of stability in the rear foot, they'll maybe get 1 more degree everted with loading, maybe 2 degrees more everted with loading. You know, the ones that are a little bit more stable to the ground. These ones allow quite a bit more. Now, number one, that's because the inflare in the forefoot, you know, you compensate in the rear foot with that. But number two, it just allows more so that you don't roll your ankle. Now, we'll get to that in a second, but getting into the fit, they come in at 28.8 centimeters in length, 9 centimeters metatarsal width, a toe box width of only 9.8 centimeters, and a toe box taper of 28 degrees. As you can see, everything about these shoes meant for speed, meant to be streamlined. They do not have a ton of room from metatarsals to your toes. Interestingly enough, I never had a ton of cramping in these things. The uppers to me actually broke in okay. They felt stiff at first because of all the paneling, but it did miraculously break in. I could feel the low volume though from the metatarsals into the toe box. There's just no getting around like how narrow it gets into that forefoot. So I'd say a narrow medium foot and go true to size on these. A 2E, I'd try to just go up 1/2 size on these things just to get, you know, a little bit better lockdown, keep that lockdown. There's no runners on these, so try to keep the lockdown. A 4E, yeah, I think you probably need to go up 1 size in these things. You know, in terms of people I'd be recommending these for, you know, if you want all the benefits of the Nike GT Cut 3 without some of the downsides of how unstable it is, this is it. Like I said, I really thought this is one of the better Nike shoes out there right now. The Sabrinas, these ones, the LeBrons. This really kind of vaulted up there. I know I talked a lot in all the GT Cut 3 videos, the GT Cut 3, the GT Cut Academy, and the GT Cut Cross. Like, why are we getting all these GT Cuts? This one I actually think actually serves the need, right? If you like the GT Cut 3, the original, without a shank, then great. But if you want a little more of the stability, a little more of the diving board effect of these, fantastic. You have really 2 options now, and I think that's fantastic. These ones for me, I don't think they're great for anybody with like real tendon strain, tendonitis, painful flat foot, things like that, just because of all the eversion they allow. They do allow orthotics though, which is really nice, and they're not the ankle spraining machines that the 3s are. They still aren't, I would say, the best shoes out there for ankle sprainers just because the inflare in that forefoot and just because the profile of them, it's still pretty, you know, they're a nimble, speedy shoe. So if you have that kind of footwork, that's what they're gonna want. These really prioritize staying up on the balls of your feet, really fast, nimble type footwork, a little more advanced footwork, honestly. You know, if your footwork's pretty advanced, I think these are really going to complement it well. Like I said, better for more of the snake bites, lumps, bumps, and bruises on your foot. It's still not the most elite shoe for more of the ailing foot or leg. Like I said, quite the step up from the GT Cut 3, at least the way I see it. So love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you do want to see what I'm talking about with the Nike GT Cut 3, the original, kind of compare or contrast which one you would like, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect your rubber and foam. See you soon in the Sneakerverse.